Hello, hello, Autism Connect family. Nani here, reporting all the way from the US, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I am so excited to be here with you guys and just share a little bit about my story as an autism mom of two beautiful children. So I'm just excited to get this webinar started for you. And again, toward the end of this live, feel free to ask any questions in the comment section below, whether it's about me, whether it's about my children, or any questions you may want to ask regarding autism. I will be more than happy to answer those questions for you. So while we get started, if you are connected at this time right now live, please leave in the comments, where you're connecting from. I would love to say hi to you um, and connect with you as we do this. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with our webinar. So we're going to be talking about the insights from an autism mom, navigating challenges, celebrating milestones, and building community. So I will share my personal experience during this webinar, some practical strategies and heartfelt insights from the perspective of an autism mom. So we will explore the challenges, the joys, and lessons learned on this journey while fostering a sense of community and support. Okay. So first and foremost, like I said, my name is Nany Santana. You can find me on Instagram as Mom of Awesome Siblings. And I reside in Philadelphia. I am a wife. I am also a mother of two children, ages 8 and 5, girl and boy. I also host a podcast online. You can find it on all digital platforms. It's called Uniquely Wired Podcast. We have grown a lot. We have about almost 3,000 downloads, which is amazing. I'm also the founder of the She's Crowned Ministry. It is an online faith-based community for special needs moms. We meet every other Friday on Zoom. And, we just provide that support and encouragement to moms. And we have a beautiful time together creating that community. And so, I want to start off with sharing a little bit about my story as an autism mom. So, I won't give you the full story because otherwise we'll be here forever. And I know we're on a time slot, but just a little bit on how I got my daughter's diagnosis and my son's diagnosis and what year. So my daughter, Eliana, who's 8, she started showing signs, and I started noticing something different in her when she was around 1 years old. And I remember my mom, which is her grandmother, used to babysit her because I used to work at a school during that time as a teacher's assistant. So this is how I knew about autism, but I never really dove into the topic itself or really looked into what autism really was until I had to live it myself. And I feel like that's usually how it is. So, I knew there was something different. She wasn't meeting her milestones for her age. Like doctors say, she's this many months, she should be saying this many words. That was not Eliana's case. So she wasn't developing like a typical child would. And so I remember my mother mentioning to me being concerned about my daughter's development. However, I didn't think any of it. I just kept on saying, um, she's just growing at her own pace. Every child takes their time, right? Because this is what I was brought up thinking, and this is what was being told to me as I was growing up. Oh, every child is their own self, which is true. Every child grows up at their own pace. But we just knew something was different from my daughter. So eventually, my mother's instinct, kicked in. And at the time, like I said, I was working as a teacher's assistant. During that time, my mom was having some health issues, so she could no longer take care of my daughter. Long story short, I didn't trust daycares. I just felt like if I had the full ability and capacity to stay with my daughter, then why not? And so my husband was kind enough to say, yes, you could stay home with her. Little that I knew, we were going to get this diagnosis when she turned 2 in 2018. As soon as she turned 2, you guys, um, we get this diagnosis. So her birthday is in August. September, we received this autism diagnosis. And it was just like a bowl of cold water thrown at me. I froze. I mean, I didn't know what to do in the moment. I felt like I was alone in this world, and that's really how it is. When you are receiving a diagnosis, your time just freezes because you are trying to figure out what to do. What are the next steps? And reality is, I don't know how it is where you live, but during that time, um, the doctor only told me, just start early intervention. And that's really what led me to the diagnosis. After the early intervention started, that's when the therapist during early intervention was telling me you should get your daughter evaluated. And that's pretty much how our journey started with autism. So the process was, I would say, a whirlwind of emotions, grief, acceptance, and also determination. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you can relate to what I'm talking about, especially if you are an autism parent yourself. Or maybe you are in that season of your life where you are currently starting to receive a diagnosis or notice changes in your child. Just know that you're not alone. And I've been there, I've experienced that. And so there were lots of pivotal moments that shaped my perspective, like the first time she used her own way to express herself. They both of my children, which by the way, they're both autistic, and non-speaking, they both receive a communication device. And so being able to see her expressing herself through that AAC device, that's what it's called, was just so beautiful to see. So those moments taught me that autism doesn't mean less. They're not less. Your child is not less just because they have a diagnosis, just because you're being told all these negative things from a doctor's point of view. It just simply means different. And it's different, right? We've learned to embrace. This is a difference that we've learned to embrace. And so with my son, he's 5. The journey was a little different. He showed signs too, but they weren't the same as Eliana's. Um, I feel like, excuse me, I feel like Eliana was more, you know, um, more to herself, more reserved. As for Jacob, who's my son, he's very friendly, very out there. So I feel like there was a lot of signs that I missed. Excuse me, I apologize. Um, there was a lot of signs that I feel like I missed, but also part of me was in denial. Only because, not because I didn't want to accept my son that way, but because I didn't want to start over with the evaluations, um, the therapies, and just having those uncertainties. But as his unique personality unfolded, I realized that his story wasn't a repeat of Eliana's. It wasn't a repeat of my daughter's story. It was his own journey. So walking this path with both of my children has deepened my faith and strengthened my resolve and opened up my heart in ways I never imagined. It's not always easy, um, because we have our hard days, but it's always worth it. And my kids, and I'm speaking for myself again, my kids are teaching me every day to see the world through their uniquely wired lenses, which is why I named my podcast Uniquely Wired, because I feel like we know that autism is not a sickness, it's not an illness, it's not a terminated disease, it's not cancer. It's just a different way that their brain is wired. And so, let's talk about understanding autism. That was just a little bit about me and, autism beyond the textbooks. So if you didn't know, autism spectrum disorder is a developmental condition that affects how a person communicates, interacts with others, and experiences the world. It can include challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, and sensory sensitivities. But it looks different for everyone, which is why it's called a spectrum. It is not linear, which is why a lot of families, and I say this because I have such a huge community on Instagram, that we're all trying to just make the difference, right? But a lot of families no longer use the terms high functioning, low functioning. I know I personally don't, if you ask me, my child is autistic, you know, they're in the entire part of the spectrum. There's no highs or lows for me. I feel like my kids have a little bit of everything on the spectrum. And so, some common challenges faced by autism families is sensory sensitivities. I know my son struggles a lot with his sensory sensitivities, and he only eats two things. That's literally his diet, including his juice, apple juice. That's all he wants to drink. So all he eats is goldfish and snack bars. That's literally, which is the little cereal bars. That's literally all my son eats every single day. And we're working on it, but a lot of it has to do, there's no gut issues, I've taken him to the gastrologist. I've done a lot of things behind the scenes, but it's none of that. It's just he's very sensitive to texture, smell. I mean, the sensory processing disorder affects all his senses. So he's triggered. You can't put anything in front of him because he gets triggered. So we're working on a lot of like food play therapy, which with his occupational therapist. And so that's another therapy you can try with your child if they're struggling with sensory sensitivities. Another thing, communication differences. My daughter has a lot more words. However, she cannot have a conversation with you. You can ask her questions, but she'll just repeat the questions. So lots of echolalia there. Um, and so she does communicate with her communication device. She'll ask for simple things like, I want to eat mac and cheese, which is one of her favorite meals. Her sensory sensitivities are a little more mild than my son's, so she's definitely more open to trying new things, and she's a very tactile seeker, so she loves touching things and feeling things. Another thing is social interaction struggles. I know both of my kids, they've come a long way with that part of the spectrum, but they're still struggling. I don't think they fully understand the full meaning of friendship and what it is to have a good friend around. And so with my son, I don't worry too much because he's only 5 right now, but with my daughter who's 8 years old, and she's getting bigger, and I feel like a lot of her autism traits are becoming more visible. I feel like her quirkiness, and so I do become afraid of bullying, which is very common in this community, unfortunately. But it's just a lot, that comes with raising a child who's autistic. And so I want to give you families just a couple practical strategies for everyday life. Number one is building communication. So, especially if you have littles like myself, I can't speak for teenagers because honestly, I'm not there just yet. I know I will get there, but we're not there just yet. And so I'm in the little kid stage, the 8-year-olds, the 5-year-olds. And so using visual supports, AAC devices, which stands for augmentative alternative communication. So it'll be a device, and I wish I had my son's device to show you guys, but it's just a communication device. It kind of speaks for them, right? And just simplifying language. I think, when we add too many words for them, it could be a lot for them, especially if they're still struggling with their speech and they're still delayed in it. So I think being very basic, start with very basic sentences or short phrases, and using those visual supports. I was recently diagnosed with ADHD, and I'm 30 years old. I'll be 31 next month, and it was a lot to process that diagnosis. And so I myself received therapies, and I will say, for me, visual support, it's huge. I need to remind myself every single thing that I need to do. I need to see it visually. I need to put it on a post-it note, to remind me, okay, you need to get this done. You need to do this. And that's just how my life works, right? That's just how life works for me. And so I think for our kids that are autistic, they need more of that visual. Okay, this is what's going to come now. This is what's coming next. And then this is what's going to happen. I do that with my son a lot since I'm currently homeschooling him temporarily. And, we have a textbook and that his speech therapist actually created for us. And it's a little binder where she put a bunch of pictures of like the things that we would normally do on a daily basis. And so when I'm homeschooling him, I'm letting him know, hey, we're going to watch a video, then we can read a book, and then you can take a break. Or we're going to play a game and sort some things out. So just letting them know, be vocal about it, even if they can't speak back to you. This is important to remember. Even if they can't talk back to you, make sure you're still speaking to them because they may be non-speaking, but that doesn't mean they're non-hearing. Okay? Just because they can't speak doesn't mean they can't hear you. So always keep that in the back of your mind, okay? Uh, so I think for us, communication has come a long way. My son, I would say he's a pro on his communication device. If my husband gets home from work, he goes to his device and he'll say, I want dad. Like he wants to play with his dad, which is the sweetest thing. Um, so, with my daughter, we're still working on it. There's a lot that went into that due to the lack of the public school system not following along with the device and actually pushing it and being inclusive in that area. But now she's in a better school, thank God. So she's doing much better there, and they're completely, super inclusive and very pro communication device. So I love that for her. So it's a lot of work that goes into it, but I would say modeling that communication aspect of it, I'm telling you, your kids will progress and they will do amazing. But you have to do your part as a parent, as a teacher, as a therapist. When you're working with these children, you have to make sure that you are implementing this, you are modeling the device, you are modeling, visual support, because that way you're getting them used to that. And they're feeling heard, they're feeling seen, they're feeling understood, which is huge for this community. Another thing is managing sensory needs. Okay, so creating friendly environment for your child that's sensory friendly. I would say minimize clutter. If you're someone that loves to buy things every single time that you go out, just minimize it, especially in your child's area. My kid's room is very minimal. I don't do too much clutter. So just keep that in mind. You have to make sure you put your needs aside sometimes to meet your child's needs, and that's okay. I'm not saying neglect your needs and forget about you, but I'm just saying to have that balance between your needs and your child's needs. I think control lighting. I know my kids sleep with their lights on, but I actually dim it. I change the color on them. um so that has been pretty cool and they love that. Reduce the noise. A lot of kids that are autistic and have those sensory sensitivities, they struggle with loud noises, um, and all those things. It could just be too much for them. Create a cozy corner, create corners that are just friendly for them. Especially when you are in public places and you need to step out for a second, make sure you find somewhere safe for them, so they can decompress and just feel safe. And offer sensory tools. You guys, if you have Amazon, I'm pretty sure we all do, get on Amazon and just find some sensory tools. If you have a Target by you, which is a store, I don't know if every country has it, but I know we have a Target here, and when you go in it, they have like boxes of sensory tools, which is amazing. So I know Five and Below does too, if you have a Five and Below where you live. But find those stores that you know are going to have fidgets and toys for your kids, so they can feel like, okay, I can have something to calm down. I personally have this uh ball right here. It's to squeeze it when I'm feeling anxious, or just overstimulated. This is great to just press on it and just get that decompressing and that sensory input. Creating predictability. So routines and visual schedules provide, structure. It just creates structure. And I'm not saying, that you have to be routine every single day, because this is the thing. Life happens, right? Life happens. Things happen in our lives that, we get sick. We got to go to the hospital. We got to go to the doctor, or, someone passes away in our family and boom, our routine just got messed up because we got to travel for a funeral or whatever the case may be. Um, it's okay to break that routine every once in a while, but it's also important, if you're just starting with your child, to have a structured routine so they can get used to something, right? And it just creates also safety, and it helps them feel secure, like I said, and navigate their day with ease, okay, and at peace. So, an example of how I prepare my child, um, and I will speak more for my son because my daughter's in school for most of the day. But with my son, I do a lot of visual preparation. So his device actually has a part where it's called visual scenes. And I actually show him step by step of what's going to happen. So, for example, recently he got a haircut. Haircuts are very, very challenging for my son. I'm talking about from the moment we pull into the drive into the parking lot. I mean, he is crying hysterically. He's very sensitive to it. And so one day, actually, his last haircut, which was last month, I created a visual scene on his device and I prepared him. I said, hey, we're going to go to the barbershop. You're going to see Miss Debbie. You're going to sit on the chair. We're going to put the cape on and she's gonna do the haircut. And I love his hairdresser because the entire time, we kind of count and we'll say 1, 2, 3, buzz, and she'll start cutting his hair. And then I'm like, do you need a break, Jacob? We'll give him his device and he'll put on his device, I need a break, which is fantastic, right? And so that is creating for him a sense of safety, like, okay, they're listening to me. I'm compliant to what I need to do, and I'm being heard at the same time, right? So, are you seeing that balance right there? And I will tell you guys, I'm not even kidding you. That last haircut was a breeze. Yes, there was minimal crying. You know, he was having a little hard time here and there. But I mean, compared to the last times that he's gotten haircuts, this was amazing. This was amazing. And, it was such a big deal for us. Even the hairdresser and I, we would just look at each other like, what? I celebrate every little moment. That's the thing about me. I'm like, any little thing, I mean, obviously it seems little for other people, but for me and my family, like it's just such a big deal because we see how much of a struggle haircuts are. And so it's just amazing to be able to have access to these things. So they're there. And even if you can receive a communication device, which we got ours through insurance, in case you're wondering, we got ours through insurance. And we had to go through a speech therapist. They had to do an evaluation and all the things. But we got it through insurance, so we didn't have to pay for it. But if you cannot receive that at the moment, there are ways for you to create these things online. You can find, the little pictures, you can print them out, you can laminate them with laminating paper and cut them up yourself and, just make that accessible for your child. There are ways for you to do it. Okay. Self-regulation and emotional support. Let's talk about that. So, I'm going to share 7 techniques for calming down meltdowns. Now, a meltdown is triggered by a stimuli, right? Overstimulation. It is not the same as a tantrum, because a tantrum, a child does that when they want something and they know they can't get it. And they're trying so hard to get your attention. They want attention. That's a tantrum, right? But a meltdown, a child just has a very hard time just regulating their emotions. They are super overstimulated. So now you got to find techniques that are going to work for your child. And this is the thing, I will tell you this. It's not always going to work. It's not always going to work, but you have to stay consistent. And so maybe one day them playing with Play-Doh works fantastic, but then the next day they have a meltdown and you try the Play-Doh, it might not go as good, right? So these are just 7 techniques that I know for me personally have been beneficial. Now, I would say my son maybe has had, and he's 5 years old, maybe he's had maybe like 3 meltdowns total. He's usually a pretty happy kid. Like he don't really have lots of meltdowns. Um, he throws tantrums here and there. So this is where you got to know the difference so you know how to best support them, right? Because if you don't know the difference between a meltdown and a tantrum, then you're going to be like stuck. You're going to get a meltdown yourself, really, because you don't know what to do. So you want to make sure you take a deep breath, just practice those breathing techniques and slow down, right? Give your child that space. So my daughter struggles a lot with meltdowns, and I would say she just struggles a lot with understanding her emotions and just lots of mood swings, right? Lots of dysregulation. So things that has helped me has been creating a calm space, right? So her room is usually her calm space. She could be there as soon as she comes from school. She flies up to her room, and you know, she decompresses. And I let her. I don't put pressure on her when she comes from school because she's been in school for 8 hours. She comes home, she's not trying to hear me or putting demands on her, do this, do that. She just takes her uniform off, takes her shoes off. I put her in comfortable clothes and she's fine. She's decompressing. Something that I've used also, the second thing is deep pressure, gently, right? You're not gonna like put so much pressure on your child where you're gonna squeeze them so hard, but just gentle pressure. Just squeeze their legs gently, squeeze their bodies gently. Their bodies are so tense during this meltdown that they just need somebody to help them, calm their bodies. When you're getting a massage and they tell you, hey, relax your shoulders, right? Or when you're doing your nails, ladies, they tell you, relax your arms, let your hands be relaxed. Same thing with their bodies. They just need that calmness, right? Number 3 is offering those sensory tools like fidget, squishy ball, like I just showed you, slime, Play-Doh, if they like any of that. Maybe a yoga ball or a peanut ball. I know we have a peanut ball we got on Amazon and it has been amazing. You can put them on their bellies and roll them up and down. You can make them bounce on the ball. So there's just so many things that you can do to help your child decompress from a meltdown, which is amazing. Number 4 is deep breathing. I'm teaching my daughter, okay, let's take a deep breath. Breathe, hold it, and then let go. Okay, this is a great strategy as well. Visual schedule, like I told you guys in the beginning, that visual schedule is very crucial for a lot of them. Number 6, gentle verbal reassurance, meaning let them know it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I say that so much to my kids that Saturday, this past weekend, when we were driving to our friend's house, I hear my daughter saying, it's okay. I'm okay. You're okay. And it was so beautiful to hear her sweet voice. Um, and I literally shed tears because I was telling myself, I was like, wow, she is saying this because I know I tell her so much. So maybe in that moment she was feeling a little anxious and she repeated that to herself. Isn't that crazy how much words can do to you? Like words really can kill somebody or give them life. Really. And so giving those gentle verbal reassurances, like it's gonna be okay. You are beautiful, you're so smart. Just remind them, like it's okay that you're upset, but it's gonna be okay. And last but not least, don't make demands. Like I said, don't force them to do things in that moment because listen, the last thing they want to do is one, hear you making them do something or requesting something from them. Just give them that time. Wait till they're calm, and then you can start that. Okay. My next point, and we're almost done, is building a community and advocating for your child. Okay. So find your people in the autism community. It's just such a world of experience. We can experience loneliness, rejection. That's a big one. And having a sense of community can make us feel better and seen. That's just the truth. And so I'm a people's person, so I'm always like, I have to create community, which is why I have my community. Um, and so I just always say we're not meant to do this life alone. We're just not. I think we were really created to have one another, to be there for one another. So we're not alone in this. And so I just want to say if you're looking, obviously, for a community, a faith-based community, and this is something that you want to join, please feel free to follow my page and reach out. And I'm more than happy to include you in the community. It's just so beautiful to see people grow together and share their experience. That way, you're not feeling alone. And my children's milestones can give you hope for your children. And really, if you look at my Instagram, I post a lot of my kids' milestones and things that they have been able to reach because it's such a big deal for us. And I want to make sure that I'm bringing hope to families. Um, that they feel like, oh man, it's not just the ugly side of autism, because autism can be ugly, right? And it could be tough. But I try to focus more on the beauty of it. Because yes, autism has brought a lot of things into our lives that have been challenging and has been hard, and I don't like that for that. But at the same time, there's the beauty part of autism, and that's what I'm choosing to embrace. So I want to encourage you to not just be so caught up on the negative part of autism and the hard times of autism, but try to find the glimpse of beauty in autism. And so, some advocating tips that I can give you is partnering with your child's school therapist is crucial as an autism parent, because it just fosters collaboration. It ensures that you are a consistent parent, okay, and that you are involved. And it just helps create strategies, tailored to your child's unique needs for a successful, school year or therapy year. It just goes beyond. Okay, it just goes beyond that. So, also knowing your child's right. I just want to encourage you before I let you go. I want to encourage you to know your child's right. What is what is your child's right? What's on the IEP? Because this is the thing, they have to follow your child's individualized education plan. They have to follow that IEP. Whether it's a therapist, a teacher, they have to follow it, okay? So keep that in mind that you are educating yourself for the rights of your child. And so I will say I had a very interesting experience with the public school system here where I live. And, my daughter, I found out she was only receiving 30 minutes a month of speech, and that was just unacceptable for me. And I knew that that was not on my daughter's IEP, which is a legal document. And like I said, they have to follow that. And so what I did was I got a lawyer involved. We did a lot of work. I mean, a lot of things behind the scene, which during that season, I was pretty depressed. I suffer with a lot of anxiety and just a lot of questions like why can't they just follow my daughter's IEP? And so that's when I decided to, because the school, even with a lawyer, did not want to go with the accommodations. So I went ahead and transfer my daughter to a charter school, which here, a charter school is by lottery and they kind of follow their own thing rather than with the school district. And thank God that she got in. It was really an open door for us, and she's doing fantastic. I love it. They work on life skills, they work on academics, they work on anything and everything that I could ask for, and she's thriving, and I'm grateful. And my hope and prayer is that my son also gets in there for next school year because I know he's going to thrive as well. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you guys. And I really hope that this webinar blessed you, but also that you feel a sense of hope, because that is my goal on here. So if you have any questions, I want to give you a few minutes on the chat. I know some of you may be seeing this after we're done the live. You may be watching the replay, but I do want to answer some questions. As someone said, could you tell about how to create executive functioning among themselves? Can you elaborate a little bit on that? I love that question, but I want to make sure that I'm answering you specifically. Um, Thank you so much for that question. And yes, if there's any other questions, I just wanted to open the floor. Sorry, I was reading. I'm gonna wait. But I think one of the things, if this answers your question, I know I spoke about visual support, which is huge, creating those schedules, and the timers can also help as well. Maybe your child, you can have them, see the timer, hey, we got 5 minutes, or you can get a break of 10 minutes. um Also understanding their unique needs. Every child has a specific need than another child does. So we can't look at them the same. I can't look at my two kids the same because they're so different from each other, let alone they're girl and boy. So that right there, it's a big difference. So then you add the autism, it's lots of challenges. But I think it's just important to keep that in mind, right? I think another thing is also um, teaching and practicing the skills. If your child sees you modeling, you working on their device, or staying on your routine, they're going to want to model that because they're watching you do it, and you are their biggest model. You are, their example, so they're going to follow whatever you follow. I hope that answers your question, Autism Connect family. Let me know if that's good. um but there's so many things. Making sure that you're collaborating with your child, and be patient and flexible. That's key. Be patient, be understanding, and have that love in your heart to understand your child. So if that is it, you guys, I just want to thank the Autism Connect family all the way from India for allowing me to be here, for reaching out, for wanting to connect with me. It has really been an honor and a blessing to be able to connect with you guys and your audience. Again, I can leave um, my Instagram down below. Mom of Awesome Siblings, that is my Instagram page. Feel free to follow and reach out via message. And yeah, thank you so much for having me.